So is anyone missing any family members? We're all good? Okay, awesome. So hi everyone, my name is Katherine. I am a sophomore here. I grew up in a town about 20 minutes from here, so I grew up in this local area. I'm an education and sociology double major. I'm on the varsity swim team here. I give tours in admissions during the year, and I also write for our blog, Smith by Smithies, for prospective students, which I'll give you the link to after the tour. It's a great resource to check out. Cool, so we'll get going. Thank you for joining me. So we're gonna start by heading into this building right here. This is Park House. Park is one of our 37 residential houses on campus. So Smith does housing a little bit differently than most schools. We have houses instead of dorms, which are basically self-governing groups of students that live together in a space. So they range anywhere from 12 to 100 students. So a big range if you want to live in a big living environment or a smaller living environment. They are all across campus, so you can live closer to your academic buildings or farther away. And each house also includes students in all 4 class years. So coming in as a first year, you get to know juniors and seniors as well as first years and sophomores, which is really nice. So we'll head inside Park. We'll talk a little bit about the house community, and we'll also see a room. So welcome, you guys can come on in, we'll chat for a minute. So welcome to Park House. Park is one of our sort of more mid-sized houses, so about 50 or 60 students live here during the year. So like I mentioned, houses are kind of very community oriented, so there's a lot of student leadership and peer support that happens within the houses. Every house has a head resident who's kind of like an RA. They're an employee of the school, but they're a student and they deal with like safety and policy issues in the house. Each house also elects a house president every year, so that is a person who is kind of more like the social leader of the house. So they run meetings and organize fun events, things like that. There are other elected roles for older students like a vice president, a treasurer, things like that. So those are great kind of leadership options as you get older. There are also heads of new students in each house who are responsible for kind of integrating new students into the house community. So they'll do things like help you move in on move-in day, which is really nice as a first year. They'll organize fun events for first years, do a big SIB, little SIB program, things like that. So they're a great resource to kind of help you get going as a first year. And then each house also has academic advisors who will help you like register for courses and different things like that, any academic questions that come up. So lots of great resources as a first year coming in to kind of get help getting going here, and also cool opportunities to be leaders as you get older. So this is our house living room over here. If you want to check it out, every house has a living room with a fireplace and a piano in it. So that's just kind of a great gathering space for the house community in general. People like to study or hang out there, but also it serves as the home for house teas, which is one of our many beloved Smith traditions. So those happen every Friday or Sunday afternoon in houses. Students gather and catch up about the week over tea and snacks provided by our dining staff. So that's super fun. Any questions about any of that? Cool. All right, so we're gonna, in a second, head down the hallway. We're gonna see a single room. 70% of our rooms on campus at Smith are single, so pretty easy to get a single here if you want. About 15% of first years coming in will get a single, but after that, it's very easy to opt into one. A lot of houses guarantee them starting in your sophomore year. So we will go check that out if you wanna follow me. Is your mom? Okay. So this is a pretty typical single for Smith. Everybody gets a bed, a dresser, a desk, a bookshelf, a closet. You can come on in and check it out if you want to. You'll fill out a housing survey the summer before you get to Smith if you decide to come here, where you can talk a little bit about kind of if there's a certain area of campus you want to live in, if you want to be in a big house or a small house, if you really want a single, really want a double, things like that. And you can also kind of share your like sleeping and lifestyle habits there if you want to kind of make sure that you kind of can be matched with a roommate if you are matched with a roommate accordingly. A lot of people will stay in their house all 4 years at Smith. You're guaranteed to do that if you want to, which is really nice. Often that house community is kind of your closest group of friends, and people want to stick together throughout college. So that's a great option. But some students do decide that they want to change houses. So I know a couple people who've like lived in a different house all 4 years at Smith. So a lot of options to kind of do whatever you want, whatever's best for you for housing here. So yeah. All right, awesome. So if you guys want to just head out into that little foyer area, I will follow you out and we'll keep going. So I'll talk a little bit about dining at Smith now. We have lots of options for dining on campus, sort of as we have many different houses, we have many dining halls. So all of the dining halls we have are in houses. There are 16 of them across campus. So wherever you live on campus, even if you don't live in a house that does have a dining hall in it, like Park doesn't have a dining hall in it, you'll live very close to a dining hall near you. So Park has several houses within like a 2 or 3 minute walk that have dining in them. So you'll never have to make like a long trek to go get food, which I really appreciate. My house does have a dining hall in it and I've really enjoyed that. Thank you. So we have lots of different options through those different dining halls. So we have like a gluten-free dining hall, a vegan vegetarian dining hall, a nut-free dining hall. We have kosher and halal options in one of our larger dining halls. So we have lots of those kind of eating restrictions covered. And then also between all of those dining halls on campus, there are usually about 5 options for meals every day. So you can kind of go on an online menu and look and see what's available in each dining hall and kind of pick and choose where you want to go eat. I'm kind of a picky eater, so I really appreciate that. So that's really fun. You can definitely dining hall hop if you want. Your card gets you into as many dining halls as you want, as many times as you want within a given meal period. So you can kind of design your best meal if you like the food in one dining hall and the dessert in another dining hall. That's definitely an option. I think there's one house that has a tradition where each of the first years get together like early in the school year and try and go to every one of those 16 dining halls within a meal period. So if you want to do that, you can, which is nice. I'll just point out as we're walking, a couple of these buildings along here are kind of examples of what even smaller houses look like. So if you want to live in a really tight-knit community where everybody knows each other really well, these are great options, very popular on campus. A lot of them are Victorian era homes that are sort of converted to modern college living on the inside, but still really reminiscent of that era on the outside. So those are great. One more note on dining. This building behind me is Chapin House. So Chapin is another kind of mid-sized residential house, but they have a dining hall that's a grab-and-go dining hall. So we have a couple of those on campus. They have like pre-packaged sandwiches, salads with to-go containers, bags of chips, yogurt cups, fruit, so you can grab that food to go if you know that you're gonna like miss a meal or you have a meeting at lunch, something like that, or just want to like pick up some extra snacks for the afternoon, which I definitely do. So that's a great option for that, just included in that regular dining plan. So lots of great choices there. I love their salad bar. That's my favorite salad bar on campus. So we'll head into this building behind me right here. Now this is our campus center. A pretty new building, very modern. You'll notice as we walk across campus, there's a lot of different kinds of architecture here. There's actually a declaration written into the Constitution of Smith College that says that all of the buildings built here have to kind of reflect the era that they're built in. So we don't have any of those like new buildings that are made to look like old buildings. We have a really big variety of architecture, which I really appreciate. It makes our campus feel like very neighborhoody, if that makes sense. So we'll head in here and talk about kind of student life and everything that goes on in this building. All right. Great, so welcome to the campus center. So definitely a very new building, probably not here when you were here. So this is a great space, kind of just a gathering space for campus. Very busy during the school year, a little quieter right now because it's summer. But the bottom level has our bookstore and our mail center, some great kind of lounge areas and study spaces down here. Up here, over here, we have our red room, which is a great place to go study. Really comfortable furniture, and there's a fireplace in there that's often on in the winter. So if you want to kind of study and warm up at the same time, that's a very popular spot. There are a lot of kind of gathering spaces and conference rooms in here, so often there are meetings or talks at lunch that happen in here that students and professors will attend. Lots of great tables for studying. This over here is our cafe. So this is not a dining hall, it's kind of separate from the dining plan, but you do get some money every year on your one card to spend there. So that's a great place to go if you want to like meet with a professor over coffee, grab some pizza between meal times, like work on projects late at night with friends, anything like that. It's a great spot for that. Really good, really reasonably priced food. Also, if you're looking for lunch after the tour, that would be a great spot to get like a big salad or something like that. So that's the deal over here. And then at the end of this hallway is our Office of Student Engagement. So they oversee all of the clubs and organizations on campus. We have over 150 of those. So those range from things like a cappella groups and club sports to different multicultural, political, and activism organizations, and kind of a bunch of other really unique things as well. So we have a clubs and org fair that happens at the beginning of every semester out on this green area outside here, so you can go. There are tables lined up with representatives from those different groups and kind of like talk to them about things happening in their club or organization and kind of get on email lists. It's a really great place to go if you like know that you want to get involved as a first year, but maybe you're not exactly sure how or what the options are, so you can kind of find out about all of that there. Also a lot of like free stickers and food at that event, so really fun. Upstairs there's kind of a larger like performance area, banquet area kind of situation, and then there's a resource room for those clubs and organizations to make like posters and flyers for their events, and also some other kind of similar studying and gathering spaces. So great building. This building is also really cool because it's open to the public, so a lot of times you'll see a lot of local faces in here, families, older people, high school students. Smith is very integrated into Northampton and our kind of larger community, so it's really nice, I think, to just kind of like have that integration as part of my life as a college student. I really appreciate that. We'll keep going. So as we walk this building that's coming up on our left up here, this brick building is John M. Green Hall. So that's kind of our large performance venue on campus. So if famous people come here to lecture or perform, that's usually where they'll do their thing. It's also home to another really cool Smith tradition called convocation. So that happens the night before classes start at the beginning of every academic year in September. It's this fun, crazy, festive event. Students all dress up. Every house has a theme for costumes, and we all process into John M. Green chanting our house cheers. The president and an elected professor speak, and afterwards there's this big fun carnival outside with like cotton candy and free t-shirts and fun events. So it's a really kind of fun, festive way to kick off the year, and I really like it because it's kind of a Smith College take on what can be like a more straight-laced tradition at other schools. So I'm definitely looking forward to that this fall. As we come just around this corner, if you look to your left through these trees, you'll see a big bus and a little bus stop. So that is a bus for the PVTA, which is our Pioneer Valley public transportation system. So that serves sort of all kinds of people in this local area, but it's free as a college student with your Smith ID, and it connects the 5 college campuses. So Smith is part of the 5 college consortium along with UMass Amherst, Amherst College, Mount Holyoke College, and Hampshire College. You probably heard a little bit about that in the info session, but students on any of those campuses can take classes at any of those other schools. You can also be part of clubs and organizations, productions, social events, lots of other cool things, a lot of facilities and resources that you can take advantage of at those other schools as well. So it means that even though we are a small liberal arts school and a women's college community on our campus, we have sort of access to so many more resources and opportunities through those other schools than a lot of schools similar to Smith have. So it makes going to Smith a really unique kind of best of both worlds experience, and it also makes just like going to school in the Valley with so many other students really cool as well. So definitely a perk to Smith. This is Brown Fine Arts Center, so home to that fine arts library, our studio art department, and also our Museum of Art. So we'll head in and take a look at that. Are there any questions about anything as of now? Cool, all right. All right, awesome. So welcome to our Fine Arts Center. So over here on this side of the building is our Museum of Art, which is an incredible resource that we have here on campus. It's actually rated 2nd in the country behind Oberlin's Museum of Art, so it's very top-notch. There are a lot of works by artists like Monet, Picasso, Degas in their collection, and also we have a visiting exhibit that's on the 1st floor, so that Modern Images of the Body from East Asia is the current exhibit. It rotates and opens every February. February. It's always by a female artist or group of artists. So that's another really cool resource that comes through here. A lot of professors take advantage of this, even in departments that like you might not expect would have an art component to their classes, because it is kind of such a unique resource that we have here. It's also kind of a local community resource as well. So they have membership opportunities for local people. They host events. They have a lot of sort of like student field trips that come through here. So growing up in this area, I went on a lot of field trips in like middle and high school to this art museum, which is pretty cool. And there are also some really cool like student employment opportunities available here as well. So I'm hopefully going to be working in the marketing and membership office here in the fall. There are also opportunities in communications, in media. There are student educators for those student tour groups that come through. So a lot of cool stuff here. And they are open today. And if you tell them that you're a prospective family or an alum, I'm sure they'll let you in. So definitely, if you have some time on campus later, definitely check that out. It is so cool. And then this over here is our Fine Arts Library, Hillier. So this is a great space for sort of independent work. We have stacks and carrels in here that you can study in. So I like to come here to kind of like hunker down if I have to do like really intense independent work. I mentioned sort of all of those resources for getting books. And then we also have a lot of cool kind of other resources in our libraries. So we have research librarians who are trained kind of in specific fields, who will help you do research in your areas of study. So you can make appointments to meet with them individually. They'll help you sort of generate a list of resources and organize your ideas and findings. I've also had professors like make appointments to have a whole class meet with them like prior to a project or like paper of sorts coming up. So they're really great. Smith is definitely a pretty research heavy place, but there are a lot of resources in place to make sure that you like always feel sort of comfortable and supported in what you're working on. We have a lot of cool kind of special collections in our libraries. So we have a rare books collection, for example, and we are home to the Sophia Smith collection on women's history, which is the largest group of resources on women's history at a liberal arts school in the country. So it's very well known. A lot of students will do some kind of research there during their time here. I took a class that was about America in 1925, and we did some research in those archives that involved looking at a few diaries of some women who had been at Smith during that era. So that was a really cool kind of example for me of some of the work that can be done there. Yeah, so any questions about any of that? Okay, we'll keep going. So we're going to head to Seeley Hall now, which is home to a lot of sort of humanities, social science, language classrooms. So we'll sit down for a minute in a classroom there and talk a little bit about academics at Smith. And then after that, we'll see a science building as well. So I'll just point out really quickly, through here is College Hall, this building to your left. So College Hall is kind of our like administrative hub of the college. So the office of the president, the dean of the college, registrar, financial services are all in that building. So great place to go if you kind of need help with things. The people there are really nice. And our president in particular is really amazing. She's very sort of active on campus. She lives on campus. She has open office hours every week, so you can go talk to her about kind of questions or issues that you want to bring up. She hosts teas at her house for different sort of student groups and organizations. Like she does a thank you tea for Gold Key tour guides every year. And she's always just kind of like out and about, like in the campus center at lunch or on the pathways. So she's a really lovely leader of our community. So we'll head in here. Awesome. Great, so here we are in Seeley Hall. In just a second, we'll head into a classroom, but this building is, like I said, mostly classrooms, but there's also a 24-hour computer lab in the basement, and upstairs we have our Jacobson Center for Writing and Teaching, so that's kind of a college writing center plus. They have tutors there who are professionals, so they're not students who will meet with you to kind of help you with your writing at any stage, from early brainstorms to final edits. And then they have also people who are experts on kind of like note-taking and study skills, so you can make appointments to meet with those people as well to kind of get help honing those skills, which are really key to kind of success in college. But again, there's always kind of someone to help you with those things, which is great. So if you want to follow me, we will find a classroom to pop into. So if you guys want to take a seat, you don't have to, but we're kind of mid-tour, so sometimes people like to rest their legs, but I'll talk a little bit about academics at Smith right now. So welcome to a Smith College classroom. This is a pretty typical classroom for Smith, although I can say from personal experience that often the desks in here are arranged in a circle rather than in rows. I think this is kind of a thing for the summer, but this is a kind of typical size classroom. We have an average class size of 19 students at Smith. We have a 9-to-1 student-faculty ratio, and that's with 70% of our courses under 20 students. So basically what that means is that sometimes those intro 101 classes can look a little bit bigger, but once you get into those later 100s, your 200 and 300 level classes, you're going to have very small classes that kind of hover around 15 or 20 students. So you really get to know your professors well. You kind of can't hide from them. They want to get to know your name. They want to get to know you. I've had a lot of professors require that students go to office hours within like the first week to get to know them, things like that. So that's really nice. And I've also found that it's really easy to make friends in those small classrooms, which is nice. It's like easy to start conversations with people that you like maybe wouldn't meet if you like weren't in that class because you don't live in the same house or do the same extracurriculars. So I appreciate that as well. So as you probably learned in the info session, we have a completely open curriculum at Smith. So a lot of schools say that they have an open curriculum, but they actually have those distribution or core requirements that they want you to fulfill in a variety of areas, but Smith does not have that. So that's what makes our curriculum so unique. We do have a program called Latin Honors so that students can do that distribution if they choose to, but it's not required by any means. So sort of in place of that, Smith does ask just that students take half of their required credits for graduation outside of the department of your major. So that's just to make sure you're not taking all of your courses in one department. But if you're a double major like I am, my education credits count as outside of my soc major and vice versa. So that is pretty easy to fulfill. And then aside from that, we also just have a writing intensive requirement for first year students. So that's just during your first year here, you take a writing intensive course that just hones in on the teaching of writing. So it's not so much about like the amount of writing. For me, like that class was, my professor had us do like 3, like 5 or 6 page papers throughout the course of the semester. So nothing too crazy, but he would have us submit an ungraded draft ahead of time that we would like meet with him each for 30 minutes for a writing conference and get feedback before we submitted the final draft for grading. So that was a cool experience, just kind of to get like in the habit of like meeting with a professor kind of in an office hours, one-on-one kind of setting, talking about my work, and also getting in the habit of revising my essays before I hand them in, which is also a really good habit to be in for college. So that was great. Options for those writing intensives include our first year seminars, which are like small 16 first years only classes, usually on very like interesting interdisciplinary topics. So those themselves are strongly encouraged but not required for first years. You just have to take some kind of writing intensive class, and there are options in other departments as well. So that's pretty much it for requirements. Other than that, you have to have a major, which is probably not a surprise. A lot of people will double major because it's so easy to do that, like with the open curriculum, to kind of fulfill those requirements and also have time for other kind of exploration courses, if that makes sense. We also have minors and we have concentrations, which are kind of like topical minors drawing from courses in multiple departments that have kind of a internship and capstone project component to them as well. So we have like a book studies concentration, we have sustainable food, community service, and social change. So those are cool things to kind of add to your courses of study as well. So definitely, if you don't know what you want to study, the open curriculum can feel like a little bit overwhelming, but we have a really strong advising system here. So when you get to Smith, you'll be assigned a liberal arts advisor who's usually a professor in a department like somewhat similar to what you've indicated you want to study, but also maybe not. They could be a professor from anywhere on campus, but they'll kind of guide you in your course selection early in your time at Smith. They'll really encourage you to explore classes in a wide variety of areas, which is great because you never know like what's going to spark your interest, and it can also be sort of relieving to have like some courses that are more reading and writing focused, some that are a little more quantitative, problem sets, test taking. It can like help to balance out your workload a little bit, so that's good advice. Definitely take that advice from your advisor, and then you declare your major at the end of your sophomore year, and at that point you choose an advisor in the department you're declaring in to be your advisor going forth. And if you have 2 majors, you have 2 different advisors. If you have a minor, you'll have an advisor for that. Yeah, that's kind of academics in a nutshell at Smith. I know that's a lot of info, but do you guys have any questions about that as of now? Cool. All right. Well, we can keep going. So we'll head to Ford Hall now, which is home to sort of more science-y things. So we'll talk about STEM at Smith and research there as well. And yeah. Yes. This is Hubbard over here. Yes, sorry, I was a little disoriented for a second. Yeah, so Hubbard is actually another one of those dining halls that has grab and go food sometimes. So my favorite Hubbard meal is at lunch. They'll have like grab and go grilled cheese sandwiches and tomato soup, like in little cups. So I often have like a class in Sealy right before lunch. So I'll like beeline it to Hubbard to beat the lines and grab that. So that's fun. So I'll talk a little bit about study abroad now as we walk. I don't know, are either of you interested in study abroad? Yes, okay, cool. So we have lots of kind of different options for study abroad here. So about 50% of our students will decide to study abroad during that traditional like semester or year during your junior year. So we have a handful of Smith College campuses across the world, as well as many approved programs through different schools and universities similar to Smith. So for a lot of those, your credits can transfer back and count for your major, your financial aid can travel with you, and we have a study abroad office who will help you kind of find and apply for those programs and kind of organize the logistics of your trip. So a lot of resources to kind of make sure that that experience going abroad can fit really seamlessly into your time at Smith. Some people do decide that they don't want to study abroad during that time during the academic year, because being at Smith is really fun too. So we have a lot of programs that happen either during our J term or January term, which is an optional term between semesters in January, where students can take classes on campus, they can be abroad, but you can also be at home doing nothing Smith related at all. So totally up to you. So some people will choose to go abroad then, and then we also have a lot of really great summer programs that happen. So I have a friend who, for example, just got back from Belize. She was on a, here, I'll just wait a second. So I have a friend who just got back from Belize. She was on a coral reef education program. So it's a Smith College program. She was there with other Smith students and professors doing coral reef research and working with local children at a summer camp there on kind of like ocean conservation and environmentalism. So that's a really cool program for her. She's studying Spanish and education, so kind of combines those disciplines, and she had to get scuba certified, so she took a class at UMass last semester to kind of fulfill that requirement. So that was also a cool use of that consortium as well. And then Smith also has something called Praxis funding. So Praxis is a stipend given to every Smith student if they choose to take advantage of it to put towards an unpaid internship the summer before your junior or senior year. So Smith will give you $3,000 to do that internship in this country and $4,000 if you choose to do that internship abroad. So that's a great way to kind of get some work experience at a time that you're kind of thinking about what you might want to do after Smith. And it's really great that Smith sort of supports that for all students, because not everybody can afford to do an unpaid internship, but those unpaid internships are sort of more available and extensive than paid options. So super cool. Any questions about any of those things? All right, awesome. So we're going to head into this building now, which is Ford Hall. So Ford is home to lots of things science related. Ford is a relatively new building built in 2010, so it's a little bit more removed from our other science facilities that I'll point out on our way back up. But one really cool thing about Ford is it's Gold Leaf certified, so that means it has kind of a certain level of sustainability. We have a goal at Smith to be carbon neutral by 2030, so we're taking kind of a lot of steps in that direction, Ford being one of them. So we'll head just over here. Awesome, thanks. All right. All right, awesome. So welcome to Ford. Super big, beautiful building. I like spending time in here even though I'm not a science student. So this building has a lot of science classrooms and facilities and labs, and it's home kind of most namely to our engineering program. So Smith is one of only 2 women's colleges in the country with an accredited engineering program. We were the first, and we're also the only of the 7 sisters colleges, which are women's colleges kind of in the East Coast area. So it's very unique to Smith. It draws a lot of people to Smith who maybe wouldn't otherwise be interested in liberal arts schools or women's colleges, but do have an interest in engineering. So we're really lucky to have that here. I'm not a science person, but I think it's really amazing. So that's awesome. This building, like I said, is new. It's very open and kind of spacious, and it's meant to kind of blur the lines between disciplines in the sciences. Our open curriculum definitely kind of breeds that interdisciplinary work, so a lot of opportunities for that within the sciences, and also even if you're not studying science, it's really easy to kind of take a science class at some point, or many science classes. I took an astronomy class during my first semester here, which is amazing. And also just really cool to do STEM work at a women's college. For example, in our engineering department, 65% of women or of faculty are female. So that's really cool in a very male-dominated field. And being in female-dominated science classrooms is a really kind of unique and exciting experience. So that's great. We also have a lot of really cool opportunities for research at Smith. So about 80 to 90% of our students will do some variety of independent research during their time here. So that's a really high percentage, very cool. We have a lot of options for that. So a lot of students will do an honors thesis during their senior year in the department of their major with a faculty advisor. You can also do an independent study with a professor kind of at some other point for credit. We have programs that happen over the summer, mainly our SURF program, so that's Summer Undergraduate Research Fellowship. The Science Center distributes funds for students to stay on campus and do research in the sciences over the summer. Usually about 150 students and 50 professors will do that. A lot of that's happening in labs right now in this building. I have a lot of friends taking advantage of that this year, so that's a really cool program, as well as some kind of smaller scale, more kind of one-on-one opportunities for research. I met someone who's a sociology major the other day who's helping a professor write a textbook this summer, so things like that. And then we also have our STRIDE program. Did you guys hear about that in the info session? Yeah, so that's a kind of like a merit aid program. It's the top percentage of admitted students are awarded this kind of 2-year fellowship and stipend to do research with a professor during their first and sophomore year at Smith. It comes with a 4-year scholarship. Everybody who applies for admission and financial aid is automatically considered for that, and it spans all disciplines. So that's another really cool way that a handful of students kind of get going with research right away during their time here. So lots of cool things. Any questions about any of that? Cool. All right, well, we'll head out. When we get outside, I'll talk a little bit about career development at Smith. Sometimes research prompts those questions for people, so I'll touch on that once we're out. All right. So we have this wonderful place on campus called the Lazarus Center for Career Development. So that is this office that you can go to kind of meet with people one-on-one starting in your first year to get help with writing cover letters and resumes, different things like that. They will help you prepare for interviews. They'll even lend you a suit for an interview. You just have to get it dry cleaned and bring it back. They have a lot of great other resources, they have workshops on things like networking or small talk in the business setting, different things like that that students can go to. They send emails out about those. And they also will bring employers and alums to campus to recruit students for their companies and organizations, and they'll help you find jobs and internships. So lots of great stuff there. For students who graduate from Smith and decide to kind of start working right away, about 91% are employed, thank you, within the first 2 years of graduation. We have about 40% of our students continue on to some kind of graduate school program of sorts. And for students who apply to med school from Smith, the percentage admitted is in the 80s, so pretty high. And we have a lot of students who will continue on to Fulbright fellowships or other sort of post-graduation programs like that. So lots of cool opportunities for life after Smith. I'll just point out that through here on this building with the green windows over here is our science library, Young. So lots of great resources in the sciences there. That's become kind of the main library in the wake of Nielsen's construction. So super cool. We are on Green Street right now. So I mentioned earlier that Green Street is kind of known as like a little bit of a quieter residential area. So these red buildings over here are houses, Hubbard houses on Green Street, like we were talking about earlier. So you can live here. There are also lots of academic buildings here, and Green Street leads right into downtown Northampton. So if you haven't checked downtown out, I definitely recommend you do. There are a lot of great restaurants, cafes, shops. There are farmers markets, a pharmacy, grocery stores, great little parks to hang out in, kind of all within really easy walking distance from campus. I think that's a really important thing to pay attention to when you're visiting schools, is kind of how accessible, how easy to get to those local kind of amenities are and just the local area. So I think we're really lucky to have all of that here, as well as just kind of have such a close relationship with our local community. As someone who grew up around here, I really kind of appreciate that and feel like I experience that every day. So definitely check downtown out. I can give you meal recommendations and all kinds of things like that. So if you need, let me know. Right now we are walking by Mendenhall. So Mendenhall is kind of our performing arts theater building. So there is a really big, beautiful performance space in here that's kind of exclusively for the theater department productions, or mostly for those. We also have a black box that is kind of just for the student-led productions. So those happen all throughout the year. You don't have to be a theater student to partake in them, which is nice. We also have cool resources for kind of set design, costume design in this building. I mentioned that class I took about 1925. For one of our class periods, we met with a costume design professor who showed us some pieces that she had like from the 1920s, or that were made to look like they were from the 1920s. So that was a cool kind of use of this resource, even though I'm not a theater student per se. So this is just like a great building also to hang out in. Lots of great study areas, and kind of behind here is our Jostin Performing Arts Library. So the third of those three libraries, a lot of cool resources there on like performing arts, on music. They have music that you can check out and go listen to in their listening rooms. And I've heard that you can also check a ukulele out from that library. They have a little mezzanine where there are often little like coffee houses and small scale performances. So that is another great kind of hangout space on campus as well. And then this over here is Sage Hall. So Sage is home to kind of more just music stuff. So there's a lot of cool things in here. A big performance area that's mostly for like the orchestra and choir productions. I think another smaller performance area. We have 15 practice rooms in this building, so you can go just like play music by yourself. We have instrument and vocal lessons that you can take for credit here, as well as a variety of other classes in our music department that you like don't have to be a music student to take. So lots of great things in there. I don't know, are either of you musicians? No? Okay, that's okay. We also have 8 a cappella groups on campus. We have a Smith Ukulele Club, so lots of cool resources there. So we'll head into our kind of gym athletics building right now and kind of check that out. So we'll talk about kind of sports and exercise and all of that. We sometimes have to go through a little secret passageway, so just stick with me, but we'll head over to the fitness center. So this building has 2 gymnasiums in it. This is kind of our more recreational gym, and then our varsity gym is on like the other side of the fitness center. All right. So here we are in Olin Fitness Center. So this is kind of our college-wide fitness space, cardio, weights, exercise, everything you could need in here. We have those 2 gyms in this building. Our swimming pool is kind of through these windows down here, closed right now, but they have open hours 2 or 3 times a day, so you can go swim or dive there yourself. I spend a lot of time in there. We also have an indoor track and tennis facility, which is big enough to have graduation in, which we did have to do this year, unfortunately. It couldn't be outside due to weather. There are also some great kind of like classroom spaces, gathering areas in here, great study spaces. I can often be found taking naps in these yellow chairs down here during the year. So great spaces for kind of students to hang out and study in as well. Smith is a Division III school for athletics, so we have 12 intercollegiate athletic teams. Division III means that you are always a student before you are an athlete, so academics always come first. That's been kind of one of the highlights of my experience here, is sort of how I feel really supported by my coach and my teammates in terms of my academic pursuits and my other extracurricular interests. I feel like it's really sort of possible and encouraged to lead a balanced life here as an athlete. So I appreciate that and think that that's kind of increasingly unique. So we're lucky to have that here at Smith. We also have club sports, so we have things like ultimate frisbee, rugby, ice hockey. So those are just like a little bit less of a commitment than varsity sports. They're through that Office of Student Engagement, but those are fun to get involved in as well, and still like a really kind of tight-knit community to be a part of. We have PE classes through our Exercise and Sports Studies department, so you register for those online. They can be things like swimming or diving, things like yoga, Pilates, different things like that. So those are great options as well. You get a little bit of credit for them, so 1 credit as opposed to like a 4-credit academic class. So those are great. And then we also have a program called Get Fit Smith that has like exercise classes that you can kind of just show up to, so you don't have to sign up ahead of time. So things like a Friday morning spin class or like a Pilates class at lunch. So those are cool too. And we have an outdoors club as well that does sort of like heavily subsidized or free excursions to like hiking or skiing in this local area. We're about 45 minutes from a ski resort. Lots of great hiking and kind of other outdoor activities, so they get funding from the school and run those trips as well. So lots of cool opportunities. Any questions about any of that? Okay, well, we'll head out. Are either of you athletes or considering? You play lacrosse? Cool. Do you think you want to in college, or you're not sure?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
You could always, so you could email the lacrosse coach ahead of time if you do want like a little bit of info about the team, or just check out the website. But a lot of people also just walk on to athletic teams here, so you can, during orientation, I think there's like kind of an athletics fair where all of the varsity and club sport teams are there. So if you wanted to like wait till then, you could just go like check in with the coach then and see if there are like open spots on the team too. So it's pretty chill. I mean, definitely some students are recruited, but if you want to just wait, there's definitely still an opportunity there. Yeah, I'll just point out that this is our Center for Health and Wellness, kind of to your right. So this is sort of our health services and counseling services combined. So you can go there and meet with someone if you are not feeling well or you have health concerns. They also have counselors that you can meet with once or regularly. They'll also kind of facilitate deferrals to an outside resource if that feels like a better fit. Hello. So lots of great opportunities there. They will do like vaccine clinics. So if you want to get like a flu shot in the fall, you can do that on campus. I learned recently that they have free acupuncture clinics for students. You have to register for them ahead of time because the spots go quickly, but that's a cool thing. They also do a lot of kind of mental health awareness and like just kind of fun, relaxing events on campus throughout the year. So we have like Pet a Pet Day at the beginning of midterms time every semester. So that's kind of a fun event. I always look forward to that. Also, if you're like an animal person, we also just have a lot of like local people that walk their dogs on campus. So there are definitely some iconic Smith College campus dogs to keep an eye out for. So I like that as well. That's definitely a good way to socialize a new animal, is just bring it to a college campus. Lots of people missing their dogs at home. So yeah, so any questions about anything as of now? We're gonna just head back up the hill to admissions. When we get back to admissions, I'll give you both my card with my email on it, so you can kind of let me know if you have any questions that come up for you sort of later down the line in your college process. And also the link to that Smith by Smithies blog, which is a really cool resource to check out. I write for it, a lot of other students write for it. We just kind of write about our lives at Smith and kind of the things we're doing on campus and in the area. They also have a lot of cool information about housing, so if you do do decide to come to Smith and you're sort of like not sure where you want to live or what to say on that housing survey, you can kind of sort of find out about the personalities like we talked about a little earlier of those different areas of campus. So that can kind of make that decision feel a little less overwhelming. And you can also like ask questions on that blog like anonymously. So if you have kind of things that you like wouldn't like email the admissions office with, that's a great option as well. So yeah, so I'll point just a couple other things out as we head up the hill. This is Tyler, for example, which is a house, and also that dining hall that I mentioned is open later than the other ones. So I eat here a lot with my swim team friends. But yeah, and this is also like a really good time to ask me kind of questions, or if there are any just like topics you want to hear more about that I like skimmed over or didn't mention. Those are great too. So yeah.
So how many classes can you take at once?
Yeah, that's a good question. So the school will let you register, I believe, for up to 19 credits, and most academic classes are 4 credits. Occasionally you'll get one that's like 5 credits because it has like a lab or a discussion component to it. There are also some like 1, 2, or 3 credit like evening classes or kind of more, you know, like half semester classes that you can take. But most students will stick to those 4 credit classes, or maybe 1 5 credit class during their first couple semesters here, and then you can kind of finagle it accordingly if you want some like extra stuff here and there. But it's pretty typical to have the 4 credit classes. That's what I've done my first couple semesters here. So
You said something about like a winter term that's optional.
yeah, the J term. So we have this J term. It exists. So basically, it's like some schools like Williams or Middlebury have like a required J term where everybody has to, oh thank you. Sometimes they add these things and I'm like, whoo. Where everybody like has to be on campus like taking a class and something like that. So that's not required, thank you. Oh man, sorry. It's a little treacherous with these construction projects. So not required that you take a class or do anything on campus. It's just an option. Some people also just come back and like hang out during that time and just like maybe do an internship or take like a 1-week class, but don't have like a rigorous schedule. Then I'm on campus because our swim season goes through that time. So winter athletes will be training during that time, but it's a pretty like chill, relaxed time on campus. And yeah, so it's nothing too intense, but usually it snows a lot and it's just kind of fun. There's one other thing I was going to say about that, but I can't remember. Oh, it starts like right after New Year's, and it's just sort of included in your like tuition, so you don't have to like pay extra or even let them know that you're going to be here. You can just come back when you want. And then classes start again. I think it was like January 25th this year, so it's only like 3 to 4 weeks. Yeah. I'll just point out super quickly, these are kind of our other science facilities. So that building back there is McConnell Hall, which is home to kind of mostly physics and astronomy. They have a really cool observatory on the roof, and the astronomy department hosts open hours called star parties that you can go to at night and kind of look through the telescope. They'll have it set on something and there will be a professor or an upper level student there to kind of tell you what you're looking at. So I got in the habit of going to those because they were required for that astronomy class that I took, but now I just go for fun also. And then this building right here is Sabin Reed, which has some other kind of science departments, classrooms, facilities in it as well. So these are kind of the other science part of campus. And then our pond, of course, so this is Paradise Pond. Unfortunately, you can't swim in it, but we do have a boathouse that has little boats that you can take out on the pond with friends. They have open hours on warm weekend days, and you can go like kayaking or paddle boating with friends. So that's really fun too. There's a little dock that you can just sit and relax on or read on. I really like to go there. My friends and I from the swim team, after we have morning lift, like Monday, Wednesday, Friday morning during our season. So after we like get up really early and go work out, we'll like go and like sit on the dock and sort of watch the sunrise. Often you'll see people reading down there. So that's a great spot. And then this right here is our boathouse. And then our athletic fields, lacrosse, soccer, field hockey, all those things are across the way, softball, and there's a bridge kind of down by the gym to get over there as well. Any other questions about anything as we're wrapping up?
Are all the classes, how long are all of them?
It depends, yeah, it depends on the class. So if you have a class that meets twice a week, it's usually an hour 20, I think. So a lot of classes will meet like 10:30 to 11:50 on like Tuesday, Thursday. That's a very popular time. And then Monday, Wednesday, Friday classes can be like an hour 10. They can be 50 minutes. So it kind of depends, but it's worked out so that you don't usually have classes that like overlap. And I typically, both semesters that I've been here, I've had two classes Monday, Wednesday, two classes Tuesday, Thursday. One semester I didn't have any classes on Friday, and the other I had just one class that met like Friday morning. So it kind of depends on what your field of study is. Like it's more common to have Monday, Wednesday, Friday classes kind of in the STEM fields, because usually there's a lab component and a little more class time is needed for those kind of like hands-on things. But like most like of the English classes, the education classes, the sociology classes that I've taken. So you kind of work it out accordingly, but it's pretty easy to kind of have like an even distribution of courses throughout the week, I find. So, any other questions about anything?
Can you eat in class?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, no worries. Right. Well, yes, so these are, as your grandmother knows, these are our botanic gardens and our plant house. So really, really cool thing to check out also. You guys, if you have a chance later, also in addition to the art museum, that's another cool thing. That's just open to the public, so you just walk in and there's lots of cute little rooms to go look at different plant species. There are outdoor gardens as well. A lot of classes take advantage of that too. The plant sciences are very strong at Smith. And they also give every incoming student an ivy plant, so you can go pick that up during orientation, which is kind of cute, and kind of see how long you can keep it alive. So, yeah. All right. Any other questions as we wrap up? Sometimes I like to leave this time because sometimes bigger groups have so many questions, but you guys are a pretty small group.
I should probably know this, but how big is the campus and is it pretty self-contained?
I don't know acreage-wise how big it is, but we essentially walked, except for like a few kind of more administrative buildings, we walked mostly around the perimeter of what's on this side of the street. And then there are some things on the other side of the street, but I'd say it's like half to a third of the size of this area on this street. So most academic classes take place kind of within the circumference that we walked around. So I find nothing is more than like 10 or 15-minute walk at the most. I live in the quad, which is actually kind of down this way past admission, so that's kind of like a 10-minute walk for most of my academic buildings, and that's kind of as far as it gets for me. But a lot of students do bike around.
I noticed a lot. So that was
Yeah. So like, if you live like kind of down more this way, like downtown Northampton is maybe a little more like a 15-minute walk to the center. So still pretty easy, still very accessible without a bike. But some people like to be able to just like zip down there quickly. So that's a good option, but definitely not necessary. So we'll head in. I'll grab those cards for you.
Thank you.
Yeah, but thank you guys so much. Great tour. And I think we can have a minute without the camera too if you have other questions. Definitely grab some water, use the restroom. I will be right back.